Hello and welcome to On the Sofa with Simi, the brains behind Bellissimi Beauty. This is a safe space where I'll be sharing and discussing all things related to marriage, motherhood, makeup, and everything in between for women in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. So, if you don't already know me, I'm your host Simi. I have over 10 years of experience in the beauty industry, specifically in makeup, aesthetics, and microblading. In those 10 years, I've gone from traveling the world doing makeup and basically living the dream to almost giving up during the pandemic to then becoming a wife and a mum in my early 30s. I'm here to share all my knowledge, tips, and tricks that I've learned along the way, just like the best friend you never knew you needed. So grab a cuppa, get cozy, and let's sit on this sofa and have a chat. And with that, let's get right into this week's episode. Hello and welcome to this week's episode. I have done a previous brief intro on microblading and what it is in one of my early episodes, but this has been requested quite a lot. So in this week's episode, I'm going to dive right into the top 5 microblading myths and I'm going to debunk them basically. As I mentioned in that earlier episode, there are a lot of people who don't know the difference between microblading or digital brows or ombre brows or combo, powder, feather, nanoblading. There are so many different variations of this now, but in this episode, I want to really focus on what the myths are of actual hair stroke microblading. And I'm going to set the record straight in terms of what these myths are and basically how they're not true. So let's get right into number 1. So, myth number 1, microblading is permanent. Now, obviously, if you are wanting this treatment, you're after something that's long lasting. You're not going to fork out £200-300 for something that is gone within 6 months, let's say. So there is a fine line between permanent and then semi-permanent, and I'm going to try and explain to you what the difference is. So, although microblading is a form of tattooing, it is nowhere near as intense as an actual tattoo. That's why we wouldn't call it permanent. Tattoos are permanent. They're going about 7 or 8 layers deep into the epidermis, and 9 times out of 10, it's done with a machine which allows the needle to penetrate a lot deeper. On the other hand, microblading is what we call semi-permanent. That means as long as you look after them, and that kind of comes a lot into it with your aftercare and obviously the technician you use, the technician's techniques, let's say, also the pigment used, your aftercare, like I said, and your lifestyle in general, sun exposure, for example. That's what can affect the longevity of it. So we call it semi-permanent. Therefore, I'm debunking myth number 1. Microblading is not permanent. And that is a good thing because we can change your brows to fit in with the times. So you've got a nice set of brows, but say a few years' time, things change, we can add to them. It's hard to take away, but it's always easier to add. So there you go. Myth number 1 debunked. Here we are on to myth number 2. Microblading is painful. Now, don't get me wrong. There is going to be pain involved. When you get your brows tinted, such as with normal tint or henna, that's going on your skin. We're kind of painting on the skin, let's say, and that's clinging to the hairs. With microblading, we have to go into the skin. We're implanting pigment into the skin, and to do that, I obviously have to open your skin. Without getting too gory, there is going to be some level of pain. That is manageable though. I have a full, 10-minute spiel about numbing cream in my previous microblading episode, if you want to check that out. But the number 1 feedback I always get when I'm doing microblading is, wow, it's not as bad as I thought. Everybody's pain threshold is different, of course, but the reason it doesn't seem to be that painful for my clients is because I am so quick. You can be in and out with a full set of eyebrows within about 45 minutes. If you're a bit confused or a bit shocked to hear that, again, please refer to my previous episode because I do explain why and how this is so quick and why I'm able to do it so quickly. So yeah, it is uncomfortable. Don't get me wrong. I've got people say to me, it feels like you're getting your eyebrows threaded or tweezed. And on the other spectrum, I've had people say it's worse than childbirth. However, with a little caveat, 99% of my clients have said it's not that painful. So there we are. Myth number 2 debunked. Microblading is not painful. Moving on to myth number 3, and this is probably one of my favorite, or let's say most interesting myth that I've heard, because I love debunking this one. So number 3 is microblading is only for those with sparse brows or people with no brows at all. That is absolutely not true. Don't get me wrong. When a client comes in with no brows, it's actually quite easy for me to do the eyebrows. I'm working with a clean canvas, let's say. I can put the brows where I want, obviously within reason. We can pick a colour together to suit the client's skin tone, to suit the client's hair colour, etc. But when somebody comes in with an actual brow there already, it's harder for me because I need to match that brow, the brow hair, the brow colours, etc., the brow shape. And I can add to it, don't get me wrong. But that is probably the most conflicted bit of information out there regarding microblading. If you have no brows, it's great. Even if you have brows, it's great. You might have some really nice, straight, full, dark brows, but you might want a bit of an arch. Microblading can help you achieve that. I have actually turned away clients before who have got lovely, lovely full brows because, like I said earlier, you want to be able to change with the times. If I just fill in your brow as is, that's absolutely fine to do that, don't get me wrong. But I always feel it's good to have room to maneuver in the future if needed. I've had clients come to me or message me before an appointment and say, should I shave my eyebrows off? Or where do you get the little hairs from to put into your eyebrows? And it always makes me laugh because they obviously have seen something online that's told them that. But regardless, you can have full brows and you can get as much out of microblading as you would if you had hardly any brows at all. So that's another myth debunked. You do not need to have zero eyebrow hair to be able to get microblading. Obviously, more of a distinction, you'll get more of an effect, but you can still achieve that with eyebrows that are already there and just need a little bit of tweaking here and there. So myth number 4 is, and I mentioned this earlier with number 2, but myth number 4 is microblading is the same as tattooing. Now you can get, like I said, digital brows, you can get machine brows. They are slightly different than a normal tattoo, but let's say we're comparing a tattoo to microblading. Tattoo pigments are designed for longevity. They're designed to be used to go deeper into the skin, like I said earlier. Microblading pigments are used for your face, essentially, so they're a lot different to what you would do for a body tattoo, let's say. But in terms of just the basic kind of technique, the basic aftercare, the basic process of it, they are 2 completely separate procedures. So yeah, microblading is not a tattoo. I mean, I've kind of covered that, but for argument's sake, that's number 4, debunked. Microblading is not a tattoo. So that leads me nice and gently into debunk number 5, or myth number 5. Microblading always looks fake. Now, if you're a client of mine or you've seen my work, you will know that is absolutely not true. Of course, there are techniques and ways to make them look more full on, let's say, more artificial, but I specialize in the hyper real nano stroke, let's say, microbladed hair stroke brows. When you go on my pictures, you shouldn't be able to tell where the hair is, where the eyebrow is, where my work starts, and where the natural brow ends. So, microblading, if done correctly, does not look fake. So there we go. There is myth number 5 debunked. Okay, so that was again a short and sweet episode this week. As you may have seen on my socials, last week was a bit of a shit show. I went on holiday and everything that could have went wrong. So I didn't get a chance to upload a episode, but I'm back and things are cracking on as usual. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for joining me on the sofa. I loved having this chat with you. As always, my DMs and comments are open if you have any questions. Have you had microblading before? Are you considering it? Do you have any questions? You know where I am. If you want to drop me a message, I'm all ears, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.